Hi students, welcome back. This is the ninth tutorial class on operating system, and this class will be presented by myself, Dr. Shruti Mondal, Assistant Professor of Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering from Jalpaiguri Government Engineering College. So coming to the content of this class, in this class we shall discuss a very important topic related with the operating system, that is the deadlock. And apart from the formal definition of the deadlock, we shall discuss some necessary condition for occurring the deadlock and how can I express the deadlock using the directed edge graph, that is known as the resource allocation graph. And next we shall also cover some techniques to handle the deadlock condition, and there are basically three important technique like deadlock avoidance, deadlock prevention, and deadlock detection and recovery technique. We shall discuss all of these techniques in detail, and apart from it we shall also discuss about the famous deadlock avoidance technique or algorithm, that is the Banker's algorithm. Okay, so coming to the definition of the deadlock, before starting the definition of the deadlock, let's consider the following cases. Suppose there are two person who want to call each other at the same time instant. So what will happen? So obviously they will find that their phone is engaged or busy at that same time, and they cannot able to make call to each other. So we need to, what do we need to do? We need to end the call, and we need to call when one is not dialing. Okay, similarly suppose two car are moving towards themselves on a single lane road. So what will happen at a certain point? They will face to each other, and no car will be moving in each direction because they will collide with each other. Okay, so this is also a scenario where no car will move in any direction. Okay, so until one car roll back into the previous direction. And third case, suppose you open a MS Word file in your laptop, and at the same time suppose you want to delete the file. So what will happen? Whenever we try to delete that file, obviously the access will be denied, and it will show that this file is already open, or this file is already used by another program. So that will show you. So all these conditions will be basically the deadlock condition. That means we want to access some resources which is already in use, or which is already in hold by the others process or others condition. So we can call that a set of process is in deadlock state if each process in the set is waiting for an event that can be caused by only another process in the set. Okay, so we are suppose in the first case we are waiting to for the connecting the phone. Okay, so until unless the second person disconnect or stop his phone or stop his dialing, we not able to achieve, we are not able to achieve the phone call. Okay, moreover, in another word we can say that each member of the set of deadlock process is waiting for a resource that can be released only by a deadlock process. Okay, so when the deadlock occur, none of the process can run, none of them can release any source, and none of them can be awakened. So we need to terminate the process or resources also. So though we can define that deadlock is a situation where two or more processes sharing the same resources are effectively preventing each other from accessing the resource. Okay, so consider the third case. Okay, so we want to we run a process to delete the file, but the file is already in open, and that file is already opened by a process, that is MS Word. Okay, so this file has been occupied by the MS Word, but we want to delete that file from our system. So obviously this is read only file, but we cannot delete that file at the same time. Okay, so this is a deadlock situation. Okay, so to prevent that we need to obviously roll back. Okay, that means we need to abort the delete abort the delete operation, or you need to close the MS Word process. Okay, so whatever we can do. So example based we can define, or we can classify the resource into type, either physical or logical. So physical resources are like printer, hard disk, drive, CD drive, etc., etc., memory, CPU. So all these are the physical resources, whereas semaphore, monitors, files, all these are the logical resources. Okay, so a simple example, apart from the deleting the same file which is already in open, suppose process 1 is allocated by a non-shareable resource like hard disk drive, and process 2 has been allocated by another non-shareable resources, say as a printer. Okay, so now it is quite possible that process 1 want to access the printer. Okay, and on the other hand, process 2 also need hard disk drive to proceed. Okay, so in that scenario, that process 1 want to access the resources which is already holded by the process 2, and process 2 want to access the non-shareable resources which is already used by process 1. Okay, so in that scenario, each system or each process will be blocked. Okay, and what will happen, that means useful work in the system will be stopped, and this condition will be known as the deadlock condition. Okay, so this situation is termed as the deadlock. Okay, the system is in deadlock state because each process hold a resource being requested by the other process, and neither process is willing to release the resource it holds. Okay, clear? Now we can classify resources in others way, like preemptible resources, non-preemptible resources. Okay, so what is the preemptible resources? That means a preemptible resources is one that can be taken away from the process with no ill effect. Okay, like memory is an example of preemptible resources. On the other hand, a non-preemptible resources is one that cannot be taken away from the process without causing ill effect, like CD resources or CD drive. Okay, so consider the scenario like when the MS Word is open. Okay, so and we want to delete that file. So if you close the MS Word, okay, and it's save the respective result, then after that you can process, you can delete that file. Okay, that means, so here memory is an preemptible resources. Okay, that means if we delete that file from our resources, that means that is will be no problem. But during, so like CD, so during the CD operation or CD writing, you cannot stop that operation. So in that scenario, the respective CD will be damaged. Okay, so that's why you call it as the non preemptible resources. Now, system model. So under the normal mode of operation, a process may utilize a resources in the following sequence, like request, use, release. Okay, so as the name suggests, request, that means a process is requesting a resources for the accessing that resource. Okay, so before using that resource, it must request to acquire that resource. That is the request. Use, the process can operate on the resource. That means when a process is in use of resource, that is the use state. And release, that means when the use of the respective resources is over, that means it will release the resources, and that resources will be again used by the others process or the same process. Okay, so that is the different sequences to utilize the resource. Okay, so request, use, and release. Now, coming to the next topic, that is the what are the different condition that will lead to us deadlock. Okay, so that's necessary condition for the deadlock. So there are basically four conditions that will lead us to deadlock condition. So first one is the mutual condition. Sorry, mutual exclusion. We already know the mutual exclusiveness. Okay, so in case of shareable resources, when a resource is shared by the different process, so in that case, in mutual exclusiveness means that only one process can use only one resources at one time. That means if another process request at that same time, so it should wait until the resources has been released. So if the mutual exclusive property has been satisfied, that means sometime that will lead to the deadlock condition. But if there is no mutual exclusiveness condition, that means the resource can be shared, and it can be shared by the different process. That means there will be no deadlock. Hold and wait. So a process must be holding at least one resource and waiting to additional resource that is currently held by others process. So until holding is not satisfied, or a hold and wait process is not satisfied, so that at that time no deadlock will occur. Okay. So whenever a process is in wait state to access the resource which is already held by the others process, at that time deadlock will occur. Okay. And no preemption. So no preemption means, that means resources will be such that, that means that is no preemption can be done. That means resources are non preemptible. Okay. That means it cannot be allocated to a process forcefully. Okay. Or it cannot be forcefully taken out from the respective process which is already in use, until the resource or the process complete its tasks. So that is the non preemption or non preemptible resource. So in case of non preemptible resource, deadlock will occur. Okay. Circular wait. So consider a set of process like p0, p1 and p up to pn. Okay. And in this scenario, what are the condition? Like p0 is waiting for a resource that is already is in use by p1, and p1 is waiting for the resource that is held by the p2. Like this way it will continue. And pn minus 1 is waiting for the resource that is held by the pn, and pn is waiting for the resource that is held by p1. So there is a circular type of waiting state. Okay. So if you consider the um, dining philosopher problem, there are five philosophers which are already sitting around a circular table, and they want to access two chopstick. Suppose p1 already access one chopstick, c1, and it want to access the chopstick 2, but it is already used by the second philosopher. Like this way, if we consider the dining philosopher problem, so in that case a circular wait can happen. Okay. So that is also lead to a deadlock condition. So these are the four necessary conditions that will lead to you deadlock. That means that should be mutual exclusiveness, resources or process should be mutual exclusive, and there should be at least one process which is in hold and wait state, and resources should be non preemptible, and there should be, or there may be some kind of circular wait state. Okay. So whenever these all the four conditions are satisfied, that will lead to you deadlock. Now, deadlock can be described in terms of directed edges graph, directed graph, that is known as the resource allocation graph. So, what is resource allocation graph? Basically, this graph consists of a set of vertex and a set of directed edges. So, vertex are basically two types. One is like process, another is resources. So, process like two types of node. So, vertex consists of two types of node. So, you can see that mm, uh, P denote the process, so it consists of P1, P2 up to Pn process, and these processes are denoted by circular nodes, and whereas another type of nodes or vertex are there, which is are known as the resources, and resources are denoted by the rectangular nodes. Okay. So which are defined by R1, R2 up to Rm. So here we consider that there is n process and consist of m number of resources. Now, directed edges. Now in case of resources allocation graph, the edges has obviously direction. Okay. Now based on the direction, we can classify these edges into two types. One is request as request resource sorry yeah request edges, another is held edges. Okay. So or allocated edges. So a directed edge from Py to resource Rj is denoted by Pi to Rj, and it signifies that process Pi requested an instance of resource type Rj and currently waiting for that resource. Suppose in that case, this one in the P1, and here suppose this one is the Ra resource, and there is an edge that is going from P1 to Ra. That means P1 process request to access the resource array, but and this edge is known as the request edge. Okay, and that means and it is also denote that P1 or P1 process is in waiting state to access the resources. Okay, so a direct edge from Pi to Rj is called request edge. Okay, now second scenario, if the edge is started from Ra towards the P direction, or it is start from R node to P node. Okay, so in that scenario we can call that resource has been granted or allocated to respective process. Okay, so a directed edge from resource type Rj to Pi is denoted by Rj to Pi. It signifies that an instant of resource type Rj has been allocated to Pi. Okay, and a directed edge from Rj to Pi is called an assignment edge, held edge, or allocated allocation edge. All are same. So you can see that this one is the pictorial representation of both cases, where P1 process request for an resources for a resource, and in second case resource has been allocated to respective P1 process. Okay, and it is quite possible that respective resource can be used for more than one time. Okay, so in that case, um, we represent such case with a dot. Okay, since resource type Rj may have more than one instance, we represent each such instance as a dot within the sequence. You can see that this one is a dot, that means it denotes one instance. That means here Ra resource can be allocated for only one time. Okay, or only one process. After the release from this respective process, it can be used, but at certain time instance only Ra process can be used by only one process. Okay, so that is the instance. So instance is denoted by dot. So here is the example. Suppose PRE denote the respective resource allocation graph. There are three type of process: P1, P2, and P3, and there are four type of resources like R1, R2, R3, and R4. You can see that R1 and R3 have single instance, where R2 has two instance. That means it can be shared by, it can be allocated to two process at the same time. And R4 has the three instance, that means it can allocated to three process at the same time. Okay, yeah. So you can here you can see that R2 process is assigned to P1, whereas P1 is requesting R1 resources. Similarly, R1 resource already assigned or allocated to the P2 process, whereas P2 is again requesting to the R3 process for the access. Okay, and P3 is holding the instance of R3. Okay, so it is the resource example of the resource allocation graph. Okay, now how can I how a deadlock can be observed from resource allocation graph? Okay, so if a resource allocation graph contains no cycle, so you can easily conclude that the process in the system is not deadlocked, or no process in the system is deadlocked. Okay, on the other hand, if a graph does contain a cycle, then deadlock may exist. Okay, it should be remembered that in case of resource allocation graph, if there is a deadlock, that means there may be deadlock or sorry, if a graph consists a cycle or contains a cycle, that means there may be deadlock or not, or deadlock may exist. Okay, so let's see. Now, for resource point of view, there it is possible that sometime there is only one instance for the resource, and if in case of resource allocation graph, all the resource have only one instance. So in that scenario, we can say that if there is a cycle, then the cycle implies that a deadlock has already occurred. So this should be that is applicable for the single instance resources only. But on the other hand, if the resource type has several instances, that means multiple resource type uh, cases, then a cycle does not necessarily imply that a deadlock has occurred. Okay. So in this case, a cycle in the graph is necessary but not a sufficient condition for the existence of deadlock. Let's see. So here you can see that this one is the resource allocation graph, and there are two minimal cycle exist like R2 P1 R1 P2 R3 P3 R2 P1. This one is the one cycle. Another is P2 R3 P3 R2 P2. Okay. So here you can see that if you consider the first cycle, like P1 P2 and P3 are already deadlocked. Okay. Why? Because P2 is waiting for the resource R3 but it is already held by P3. Okay. Again, P1 is trying to access the R1 whereas R1 is already allocated to P2. Okay. And similarly, P3 is trying to access the R2 but it is already allocated, but the instance of the R2 is already allocated to P1 and P2 until unless uh, they release the respective resource. Obviously, um, P3 or respective process cannot access the respective resource or the resources which they want. Okay, so that means uh, these processes are in deadlock condition. Okay. Now, condition. This is now consider the second case. So, for this type of resource allocation graph, you can see that P1, P2, P3. There are four processes, but there are two resources, and each of the resources have two instances. Okay, so there is a cycle. You can see that what is the cycle? The cycle is between RT, R2, P1, R1, P3, R2. This is the cycle. But here P3 is wanting to want an access of R2 instance, but R2 instance is already allocated to P1 and P4. It should remember that P4 is not in the cycle. Okay, so if that scenario occurred, that the resources already allocated to a process which is not in that cycle, that means if that process release the resources instantly, that resource can be used by the respective process which request for that resources. Okay, that means if P4 release the R2 resources, that means this process this R2 resource can be instantly allocated to P3. Okay, and it will break the respective cycle. So here you can see that in that scenario, though the resource allocation graph contained a cycle but there is no deadlock. So deadlock will happen when all the process node are in the same cycle, but here two processes are not in the cycle. Okay, only P1 and P3 are in the cycle. So this is the two scenario where um, in the first scenario you can see that deadlock occur where there is a cycle, but in the second case there is a cycle but in cycle in the graph, but it will not in the deadlock condition. Clear? So now method for handling deadlock. So how can we handle the deadlock? So there are four strategy to deal with the deadlock problem. So first of all is the deadlock prevention. That means by using some kind of resource scheduling. So we want to at least break one of the four necessary condition that is required to create the deadlock. Okay. That means we already know that mutual exclusiveness, hold and wait, circular weight. So we need to break any of this condition. Deadlock avoidance. So here we develop some kind of algorithm so that we can avoid the deadlock easily by careful resource scheduling process. Okay. Now third one is the deadlock detection and recovery. So here it will detect the deadlock that is already occurred in the process, and after that it will take action how to stop that deadlock. Okay, so that is the deadlock detection and recovery. And on the other hand, the ostrich approach, here we just ignore the deadlock problem altogether, because whenever we want to deal with the deadlock prevention, avoidance, or detection and recovery, there should be some kind of respective code should be present, and this extra code make the process more heavy. So sometime the programmer just avoid this part, deadlock condition. Okay, so whenever there should be some kind of deadlock condition, so we need to manually reboot the system. Okay, so however, we shall discuss all these three techniques like deadlock prevention, deadlock avoidance, and deadlock detection and recovery in detail. Okay, so let's start. First strategy is the deadlock prevention strategy. So you already know that how can we prevent the deadlock. So we know that prevention is the better strategy. Okay, so how can we deadlock, how can we prevent the deadlock. Okay, so we need to eliminate any the necessary four condition. Okay, so first one is like elimination of mutual exclusion condition. So w- w- if we able to make the resources shareable, okay, so we can easily eliminate the mutual exclusiveness condition. Okay, but however, like hard disks or cd drive, printer, all these are non-shareable, and there's some kind of mutual exclusiveness. That means only one process can access only one resources at the same time. But however, read only file or others file can make are not required to be mutual exclusive access, and that thus cannot be involved in the deadlock. So we should focus on the read only file or others type of file which are not mutual exclusive. Okay, so if we able to eliminate the mutual exclusiveness condition, so that we can break the deadlock condition. Okay, now the like elimination of hold and wait condition. So how can we what is hold and wait condition? That means only, there may be some kind of one process which is already in wait stage, and that is why this process is in wait state, because its request is resource which is already holded by the another process. So how can you deal with this type of hold and wait condition? So uh, mm, we can use the all or none strategy. What is all or none strategy? That means we can allocate all the resources at a certain time to only one process, and after that completion of completion of that process, or after the completion of the respective process or use of the respective resources, the resources are released. Okay, and next process can use the all of the resources. Okay, so in that condition or in the strategy, there is no hold and wait condition. That means we are granting all of the resources to only one process at a certain time. Okay, so you can see that if the complete set of resource needed by a process is not currently available, then the process must wait until the complete set is available. Okay, so while the process wait, however, it may not hold any source. Clear? That means suppose p1 process, it needs r1, r2, r3, three resources, but r3 is not available. So at that time, uh, the respective process will not execute. It will be a wait state, but it will not hold the others two, r1, r2 resources. Okay, so thus the wait for condition is denied and deadlock cannot occur. But here you can see that this strategy can lead to the serious waste of resources. Why? Because we allocate or we assign all the resources to each of the process at a particular time. So it is possible that p1 process don't need other type of resource, but it is already needed by the others process. Okay, so at that time the we can waste the resource at that time. Now, elimination of non-preemption condition. Okay, so the non-preemption condition can be elevated by forcing a process waiting for a resource that cannot be immediately allocated to relinquish all its currently held resources. Okay, that means the strategy requires that when a process is holding some resources is denied request for additional resources. Okay, that means when the process must release its hold resources if necessary, if others process request on urgent basis. Okay, so implementation of this strategy denied the non-preemptive condition effectively. So we need to eliminate the non-preemption condition also. That means no resources are, that means, yeah, non-preemptible. That means if we forcefully taken out some kind of resources for some purpose, that means there will be no serious effect on the system. Now elimination of circular weight. Okay, so it is the scenario where one process want to access the resource that is already held by the next process. So in that scenario, what we can do, that we can assign some kind of order or ordering in all resources. Okay, and based on that is ordering, the respective resources can be allocated. Okay, so what we have done here, we impose a total ordering in all of the resource type and then force all process to request the resource in order, either increasing or decreasing order. Suppose there are printer, cd drive, disk drive, sorry, floppy, or USB drive, or okay. So we are assigned like 1 2 3 for them. Okay, so whenever a process want to access the resources, so based on their ordering they can access them. Okay, so here obviously, mm, uh, mm, uh, we yes, obviously each process obviously cannot access the all the resources at the same time. Okay, so this strategy imposes a total ordering of all resources, and to require that each process requests resources in numerical order, increasing or decreasing. Okay, one by one. So after elimination of these four conditions, we can prevent the deadlock. Now, second strategy, that is the deadlock avoidance, which is very important and useful technique. So here we want to avoid the deadlock condition, and for to avoid the deadlock condition, we need to require some additional information, like what how resources are to be used, like this information may be like maximum number of resources for each type of the process that may need, and what is the maximum demand, what is the available resources, what is the allocated resources. So all this information should be present to avoid the deadlock. Okay, that means we need to design an algorithm which can use all this necessary information, uh, so that it can uh, make a sequence of process execution such that there is no deadlock. Okay, so you can see that the deadlock avoidance algorithm dynamically examine the resource allocation state to ensure that there can never be a circular wait condition or deadlock condition. Okay, okay, now resource allocation state is defined by the number of available resources, allocated resources, and the maximum demands of the respective process. All these are used to define the resource allocation state, and deadlock avoidance algorithm continuously examine this resource allocation state. Okay, now if the necessary condition for a deadlock are in place, it is still possible to avoid deadlock by being careful when resources are allocated. Okay, one of the most useful or famous deadlock avoidance algorithm is the Banker's algorithm. Another is the resource allocation graph algorithm. Okay. Now, before going through these two algorithms, let's define the safe and unsafe states. So, what is safe state? A system is said to be in safe state if there is a safe execution sequence. Okay, that means there are four process which need to be executed, like p0, p1, p2, and p3. But it is quite possible, like if P0, P1, P2 and P3 are executed in this order, there will be deadlock. But if it is like P1, P3 and P2, P0, so if in this sequence it has been executed, in that case there will be no deadlock. Okay, so an execution sequence is in ordering for process execution such that each process runs until it terminates or blocked, and all requests for resources are immediately granted if the resource is available. Okay, so safe state means there is safe execution of sequence and there is no deadlock. Whether unsafe state means there is no safe execution, and there should be some kind of one process or one sequence that will lead to you deadlock condition. So here you can see that pictorial representation of safe and unsafe step for the particular sequence of process. This one is the deadlock condition, and here this one is the borderline between unsafe and safe condition. Okay, now let's discuss about the first algorithm for the deadlock avoidance. Okay, so that is the resource allocation graph algorithm. Okay, so what is the resource allocation graph algorithm? So the deadlock avoidance algorithm used a variant of resource allocation graph. Okay, so here we introduced a new type of edge which is known as the claim edge. Okay, so what is claim edge? A claim edge pi to rj indicate that process pi may request resource rj at some time in the future. That means pi and rj, it indicates that a claim edge indicate that at a particular time instant it doesn't it is not requesting for that resources. Okay, but in future it may request that resources. Okay, so these edges resemble a request edge in direction. Okay, direction is same as the request edge, but it is represented by a dashed line. Okay, now when a process pi requests resources to the rj, the claim is converted in the request edge, and when a resource is already allocated to the respective process, it is correspondingly denoted by the respective edge from the resource towards the process direction. And when the process execution is complete, okay, then when a resource but that means at the time resource should be released. That means when a resource rg is released by the respective process pi, so that means the respective assignment age or allocation age is converted to again claim age. Okay, so like this way, like means claim age is converted into the request age, and after that request is in converted into the assignment age, and again assignment is converted to the claim age. Okay, so how can we actually it function? So suppose that process pi request resource rj. Okay, now the request can be granted only if converting the request is pi to rj to an assignment age, and that does not result in the formation of any cycle in the resource allocation graph. It is the main point. Okay, that means suppose pi is requesting to access the resource rj. Okay, but at that time there is no cycle in the graph. But what do we need to check? That whenever there is some kind of request, we should convert the request age into the assignment age or allocation age from rj to p1 pi direction, and check if this formation or if this change will lead to any formation of a cycle in the resource allocation graph. Okay, so that means we need to find out an algorithm to detect the cycle in the respective graph. Okay, that's why we also call it as cycle detection algorithm. Okay, so if no cycle exists after the conversion from request age to the assignment age, okay, then the allocation of the resource will be leave the system in safe state. But if a cycle is found, then the allocation will put the system in unsafe state, and therefore the respective process, that is pi, will have to wait for its request to be satisfied in future. Okay, so that is the resource allocation graph algorithm. Clear? That means after conversion from request stage to assignment stage, we need to find out if there is any kind of cycle present there. Okay, now coming to the banker's algorithm. Okay, so why the consider the scenario of a bank. Okay, so whenever bank is open, uh, there is a certain limit, like suppose there is 3 lakhs amount of cash is available, and at the same time some customer want to take the cash, some want to submit cash into their account. Okay, that means the amount of cash in the bank is dynamically changed with to time. Suppose initially there are 3 lakhs amount of cash is available there. Now a process or a person want to withdraw 3 lakh amount of cash at 10 a.m. Now if the bank given 3 lakh amount of rupees at 10 a.m., so what will happen? There will be no cash in the bank at that time, and others and bank cannot provide the cashes to others customer who needs less amount of cash, like 1000, 10,000. Okay, so at that, so what will happen? Okay, so that means bank will so bank will request the first customer to please to wait for some time until others customer give cash in their account. Okay, so that the available cash become larger. Okay, so based on this principle bankers algorithm is work. So this algorithm can be used in the banking system to ensure that the bank never allocate all its available cash such that it can no longer satisfy the needs of all its customer. Okay, so here the other when the others customer give some cash in their respective account, so available cash will be supposed from increase from 3 lakh to 5 lakhs. So at that time he will release like 3 lakh caches, but at the time he have also 2 lakhs amount of cash. So based on that principle bankers algorithm works. Okay, so this algorithm is applicable to a system with multiple instance of each resource type. So you should remember that bankers algorithm is applicable where there is multiple instance of resources are present. Okay, so when a new process enter into the system, it must declare the maximum number of instance of each resource type that it may need. Okay, and this number may not exceed the total number of resource in the system. All these parameters should be keep in mind. Okay, so what we have taken, that when a new process enter into the system, that it must declare the maximum number of instances of each resource type that it may need. That means what is the maximum number of instances of each resource that it is needed during the execution, and it should not be it should not cross the total number of resources in the system. Okay, and after that, after completion of the all resource use, it should return the resources so that others process can use. Okay, so what bankers algorithm check? So it check that which process is in safe state and which order of the process for the execution is also in safe state. So it is possible that the different order of the process execution may lead to you deadlock condition. So we need to find out that order of the process execution so that all the process execution keep in safe state and it will not lead to you the deadlock conditions. Okay, now to implement the bankers algorithm, there are different structure or data structure required and for the execution. Like let us consider let us consider that n number of processes there and m number of resources are there. Now we need the following data structure. Okay, like available, max, allocation, need. Okay, so what is the available data structure? That means a vector of length m indicate the number of available resources of each type. Okay, so for each of the resources, what is the available number of resources? It will indicate. Okay, now max, what is indicate max indicate that the maximum demand of each process. Okay, Now allocation, this matrix define the number of resource of uh, each type currently allocated to each process. Okay, so whenever there is process, so obviously few number of resource is already there, already allocated to it, so that matrix is denoted by allocation. Okay, that matrix is nothing but the allocation matrix. Okay, and max matrix is actually nothing but the demand of the each process, maximum demand of each process. The next we define the need. So need means it is the remaining resources. Okay, so a matrix, the need matrix indicate the remaining resource of resources need of each process. Okay, so we can say that need equal to max minus allocation. Okay, so maximum demand for each process minus allocation of that particular process is nothing but the need. Okay, so all this data structure will be uh, used during the execution of Banker's algorithm. Now let's start. So this is the pseudo code of the Banker's algorithm. Let's yeah. Let work and finish be vector of length m and n, and we initialize that work equal to available. So finish I equal to false. That means let's start I equal to 0, and we need to find out one condition where both condition will be satisfied, like finish I equal to false and need less than equal to work. That if this condition is not satisfied, go to the last step, that is the if finish equal to I true. That means check all the value of I, and if no such condition is found, that means we can say that the system is in safe state. But if need less than um, I, if this condition is satisfied, okay, so this condition will be used, work equal to work plus allocation. Okay, this is a pseudocode, and also it is known as the safety algorithm. So let's see how this Banker's algorithm actually work. So let us consider an example where there is five process p0, p1, p2, p3 and p4, and there are three type of resources with multiple instances, and resource type A has 10 instances, B has 5 instances, and C has 7 instances. Okay, okay. uh, Now suppose that at time t0, that means at the beginning of the process, beginning of the process execution, uh, fol- mm, following snapshot of the system has been taken. That means following allocation has been provided. Like at t equal to 0, it is given that uh, 0 number of A resources is allocated to P0, 1 number of B resource is allocated to P0, and 0 number of resources is allocated to P0. Okay, like this way. 2 number of A resources is allocated to P1, and like this way. Okay, and this one is the max. We already define that max denote the actually demand. Okay, so at that time, but what we need, what is it indicate that p0 need like maximum 7 number of A resources, 5 number of B resources, 3 number of C resources, and similarly p1 required 3 number of A resources, 2 number of um, 2 number of B resources, and 2 number of C resources, like this way. So this one is the initial condition. Okay, allocation max, just we put this value initially. Okay, so allocation and max already provided to us. Now we want to calculate the available resources, and we define that work equal to available. So how can we calculate available or work? Okay, so for that purpose, uh, we already know that resource type A has 10 instances. So total instances minus allocation, that is the available to us. Okay, so we know that 10 instances. So total 10 comma 5 comma 7, that is for A comma B comma C respectively. Okay, so if we make subtraction from total by overall allocation, that is denote the available. So here you can see that overall allocation is nothing but for a particular resources, what is the total number of allocated to it. Like p1 is like a resource is allocated two times for p1, or three instance of a resource is allocated to p2, two instance of a resource is allocated to p3. So total allocation or overall allocation is 7. Okay. So similarly, total allocation for B is 2, and total allocation for C resource is 5. So we define overall allocation for A, B, C is 7, 2, and 5 respectively. This one denote actually overall in allocation. Now available means what? Available means total instances minus overall allocation. So how can it take like 10 minus 7? What is that? 10 minus 7 means 3. So this is available to us. 5 minus 2, that is 3. 7 minus 5, that is 2. So available resources for A, B, C is 3, 3, 2 respectively. Now we denote the need. Okay. So how can we define need? We already defined that need is nothing but demand minus allocated, or max minus allocated. So here just max. 7 minus 0, that is 7. 5 minus 1, that is 4. Or 3 minus 0, that is 3. Okay. Again, like 3 minus 2, 1. 2 minus 0, 2. 2 minus 0, 2. For P2 process, 9 minus 3, 6. 0 minus 0, 0. 2 minus 2, 0, like this way. So by from so what is the mm, initial information to us? Total number of resource instances. Okay, like A has 10 instances, B has 5 instances, and C has 7 instances. And initial allocation for each of the process, that is already provided. And the needs or maximum demand, sorry, the demand of the process, demand of the each resources by respective process is also given to us. And from there we calculate available resources and need of the resources from these two matrix. Okay, so we get these two type of matrix. One is available matrix, another is need matrix. Okay. Now, okay, now let's continue the Mangas algorithm. So we select the I value is 0. So for I equal to yeah, first one. So for I equal to 0, okay, so need is like 743. You can see that, just go through this respective row, 743, and work is already there, 3 3, yeah, work is 332. Okay. Now let's go to the condition. So the if this condition satisfy, then work will be updated. Okay. So what will happen? We need that if need less than equal to work, okay, then we can call that p1 is in safe state. Okay. So here you can see that we need to check that need less than equal to work is not work is satisfied or not. Okay. So you can see that 7 comma 4 comma 3 is greater than 3 comma 3 comma 2. That means 7 greater than 3, 4 greater than 3, 3 greater than 2. So obviously need not less than equal to work. So obviously you can say that p0 is not in safe state and it need to wait. Okay. So what we do, we need to move to the next process. Let us consider the p1 process. So for p1 process, the need is already given like 1 2 2. Okay, and work is also already there, 3 3 2. Okay. So here you can say that 1 is less than 3, 2 is less than 3, and 2 is less than equal to 2. Okay, that means this condition, that means need less than equal to work, this condition is satisfied. Now if this condition is satisfied, we can say that sorry, this one will be p1. So p1 is safe state and respective and resource will be allocated to it. Okay. So we put the p1 process into the safe state array. That means p1 will be executed first. Okay, and at the same time work will be updated. So current work will be nothing but the previous work plus allocation. So previous work is 332. So 332 plus current allocation is 200 for P1 process. So 332 plus 200, that means 3 plus 2 5, 3 plus 0 3, 2 plus 0 2. So current work which is updated is 532, and safe state array is also updated by P1. So here you can see that P1 already this is safe state, is in safe state, so we denote it by green, and here you can see that work is already updated, so updated work value is 532. Okay, now let's go to the P2 process. So when the P2 process is there, you can see that um, for P2 process, you can see that the need is 600 and work is 532. So if this condition is satisfied, you can see that 6 greater than equal to 5. So obviously need not equal to or not less than equal to work. So obviously P2 is not in safe state, and it will need to wait. Okay, and we need to move to the next process. Okay, now let's consider the P3 process. So for P3 process, need is, you can see that 011, and current work value is 532. So obviously you can see that, okay, there is mistake, sorry, this one will be 011. Okay, so 011 obviously less than equal to 532, and this condition is already, yeah, already sorry yeah satisfied. So P2 is safe state, and resource will be allocated to it. Okay, and we need to put that P3 sorry P3 process into the safe state array. So P1, after P1 P3 will be executed, and current work value will be 532 plus allocation of P3 process. So 532 plus 211, that is 743. Okay, next work value will be 743, and like this, so it will be continued. Okay, so like this it will go on until the terminating criteria is satisfied. That means all process are in safe state or not, that will be calculated, and we find that this sequence like P1 P3 and P4, and after P2 and P0, if this condition this satisfied, this sequence satisfied, then we can find that all state are in safe condition, and this sequence is found to be safe state. Okay, so this sequence satisfy the safety criteria, and which will help you to avoid the deadlock condition. Okay, clear? So this is the Banker's algorithm by which we can avoid the deadlock. Now coming to the next part, that is the deadlock detection. So here, if a system does not employ either deadlock prevention or deadlock avoidance, so what we need to do, we can detect the deadlock. Okay, where deadlock occur. So in this situation, what we can do, in this situation, the system must provide an algorithm that examine the state of the system to determine whether a deadlock has already occurred, and if the deadlock has occurred, then how then algorithm to recover from that deadlock. Okay, so basically this is deadlock detection and recovery technique. Okay, that means we assume that we don't have any prevention or avoidance technique, and we assume that deadlock is already occurred, so we will try to detect that deadlock, and after that we employ some kind of technique to recover that deadlock. Okay, now, according to the number of instances in each resource type, the deadlock detection algorithm can be classified into two categories as follows. So, first one is the single instance resource type. So, this is the first deadlock detection technique where single instance resource type is considered. That means each resource has one instance. That means each resource can be allocated only one process at a certain time instance. So, for these particular cases, we define a deadlock detection algorithm that use a variant of resource allocation graph, and which is known as the wait for graph. So how can we get the wait for graph? Basically, a wait for graph can be drawn by simply reviewing the nodes for resource and collapsing the appropriate edge from the resource allocation graph. Here you can see that this is one of the resource allocation graph, where there is five number of processes, and five number of resources are there. Like P4 is want to access the R2 resource, but R2 is already allocated to the P1 process, like this way. Now this one is the resource allocation graph, where directed edge denote either request edge or the allocation edge. But if you want to get wait for graph for the respective resource allocation graphs, then what we need to do, we need to remove the respective resource, like we need to remove this rectangular node from there, and just remove the rectangular node and collapse the respective edges. Okay, appropriate edges. So here you can see that for P1 and P2, P1 is requesting R1, but R1 is already allocated to the P2. So just remove the R1 and remove this respective edges. So P1 there, we draw a new edge from P1 to P2 direction. Okay, so we get P1 to P2 direction. Similarly, we draw or we include another edge like from P2 to P3 direction, from P3 to P4, P4 to P1, and P2 P4, and P2 to P5. So the resultant graph is known as the wait for graph. Okay, so resource allocation, sorry, yeah, resource like this way you can get. So how can I detect the deadlock? So a deadlock exists in the system if and only if it can be proved, and the proof is not in your out of the scope of your syllabus. But it can be stated that a deadlock exists in the system if and only if the wait for graph contains a cycle. Okay, so detect the deadlocks, the system need to maintain the wait for graph periodically to invoke an algorithm that search for a cycle in that graph. Okay, so by using this method we can simply search for the cycle in the graph, and if the cycle if there is some kind of deadlock is there, so you can say easily say that there is sorry the, if there is some kind of cycle is in the graph, we can say that there is deadlock. You can see that like P4, P1, and P2, there is some kind of cycle. So obviously P1, P2, and P4 are in deadlock condition, but P2, P3 are not in cycle. You can see that two edges is going to the P4 direction. So obviously we cannot move from like P2, P3, P4, but we can move P4 to P2. So P2, P3, 4 not in the cycle, but P1, P2, and P4 these are in the cycle. That means P1, P2 are in the deadlock condition. That means there is some kind of deadlock. Now here you can see that all these resources has only one instances. Okay, but if we continue if we consider the multiple instances of resource type, so at that scenario an algorithm is already proposed. So here which is quite similar to the banker's algorithm, but here instead of finding the safety sequence, we want to find out the deadlock. Okay, so and here just only one difference is there, like we define the request. Okay, we define the request. Yeah, you can see that request instead of need. Okay, so request, that means if some process request for an ages, so that will be the request. So if request less than work, then work equal to work plus allocation, that process will be same. But here the last sentence is difference, and that this one is the difference. Instead of need, there is request, and instead of this value is true, we want to find out the value of finish equal to false. That means where deadlock is happen. Okay, so that is the same as the banker's algorithm, so we do not discuss in details. Now next point is the recovery from deadlock. So after the detection of the deadlock, so how can I recover the deadlock condition for a particular process or system? So basically there are two options for breaking a deadlock. One is process termination, another is a resource preemption. So process termination, as the name suggests, that means when there is deadlock occur, so we can do two steps, like about all the deadlock process. That means here all the process that is a deadlock condition will be terminated instantly. Okay, and this method is very cost effective, and it remove all the partial computation completely from the respective memory also. However, in the second case, about like suppose P1, P2, P3 process are in deadlock condition. So what we can do, like initially just abort only one condition, let's abort the or let terminate the P1 process, then P2 process, then P3 process, like this way. If after terminating the P1 and P2 process, if there is no deadlock, so obviously P2 and P3 will be executed, and P0, P1 and sorry, other two process will be in the previous stage. Okay, so here you can see that this method terminates one process at a one time and invokes a deadlock detection algorithm to determine whether any process are still in deadlock condition. Okay. Now another is the resource preemption. So here instead of terminating the process, we can preempt the resource. That means we can forcefully take out the resources and can allocate the others process until the deadlock cycle is broken. So in resource preemption, the operator or system preempts some resources from process and give these resources to the other process until the deadlock cycle is broken. Okay. So if preemption is required to deal with the deadlock, then the three issues are need to be addressed. First, selecting a victim. Okay. So what we can do that the system or operator select which resources and which process are to be preempted. Okay, suppose P0 is P0 hold the R1 resources, so we need to find if you select the victim as P1 and R1 resource, so obviously uh, respective R1 process can be allocated to the other process. So we need to find out the respective resource and process which will be terminated or preempted based on a cost factor. That means we should select a process and respective resource such that the remaining process is cost effective to us. Okay. Then suppose second process is the rollback. The system or operator must roll back the process to some safe state and restart it from the safe from that state. Okay. So it should select some process go back to its previous stage so that the deadlock can be broken. And starvation, and the system and operator should also ensure that resource will not always preempted from the same process. Like P1 process is holding R1 process and we always try to preempt the P1 and R1 process, then what will happen? P1 is will be never executed. Okay, that means P1 will be starved. Okay, so we also ensure that this type of resource preemption will not need to be performed. Okay, so we need to find out a victim. We need to roll back the respective process, but to ensure that there will be no starvation. That means only one process will not always preempted. Okay, so that's all. Coming to the conclusion, so we have studied deadlock and the necessary condition for the deadlock, and we also studied the resource allocation graph and some strategy to avoid the deadlock condition, that is the deadlock avoidance, deadlock prevention, deadlock detection. Banker's algorithm and resource allocation graph algorithm are two very popular algorithm to avoid the deadlock conditions. Okay. Mm, like this way. And after the deadlock detection, we can use two type of process, like single instance resources and multiple instance resources. And after that we can after the detection of the respective deadlock, we can easily recover uh, by terminating the respective processes or preempted the resources. Okay, that's all. These are the reference. If you have any question, please post them. Thank you.